Hawaii reps vote yes as Cannabis More Act passes House. A text-to-speech video article from Big Island Video News.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
On Friday, the U.S. House voted to pass a bill that would end cannabis criminalization. The Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act now goes to the U.S. Senate for consideration.
On this vote, the yeas are 228, the nays are 164. The bill is passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The two Democratic representatives from Hawaii, Ed Case and Tulsi Gabbard, both voted in support.
Mr. Speaker, finally, this is a historic moment that so many here and across the country have been working towards to take this step to end America's destructive and costly war on drugs that has turned everyday Americans into criminals and torn families apart, ruining so many people's lives. This legislation removes cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act and frees states to regulate it as they choose, and encourages research into the medicinal qualities of this plant that we already know are changing people's lives and saving people's lives. It also applies retroactively, expunging prior convictions and records, freeing a generation of people from the shackles of this failed war on drugs. The bottom line is this vote is about freedom. It's about freedom of choice for every American to make their own decisions for themselves without fear of the government coming and arresting them. I urge my colleagues to support this bill. The Senate should pass it quickly so we can send it to the President for his signature. I yield back.
According to a congressional summary, the bill also makes other changes, including the following. It replaces statutory references to marijuana with cannabis. It requires the Bureau of Labor Statistics to regularly publish demographic data on cannabis business owners and employees. It establishes a trust fund to support various programs and services for individuals and businesses in communities impacted by the war on drugs. It imposes a 5% tax on cannabis products and requires revenues to be deposited into the trust fund. It makes Small Business Administration loans and services available to entities that are cannabis-related legitimate businesses or service providers. It prohibits the denial of federal public benefits to a person on the basis of certain cannabis-related conduct or convictions. It prohibits the denial of benefits and protections under immigration laws on the basis of a cannabis-related event, like conduct or a conviction. It establishes a process to expunge convictions and hold sentencing review hearings related to federal cannabis offenses. And it directs the Government Accountability Office to study the societal impact of cannabis legalization.
No one wants to
Some lawmakers express reservations about the proposed cannabis tax. Nebraska Republican Representative Adrian Smith had this to say on the House floor.
Mr. Speaker, much of the debate we have heard today has been about criminal justice and child safety implications of this bill. But I'd like to focus on the troubling aspect of this bill in the tax title. This bill would create a new federal tax on marijuana starting at 5% in the first year and escalating to 8% after 5 years. We always hear about tax parity in this chamber, and yet the treatment of these products compared to tobacco are vastly different. Vastly different. Let me say again, though, that this bill taxes marijuana, which has the potential to impact society really in unknown ways, or at least in ways that we should all be concerned about, but at less than half the rate of half the tax rate of a pack of cigarettes. Once these taxes are created, rather than treating them as general revenue, where they will actually or could actually help defray the costs associated with the Department of Treasury's newly created obligation to regulate marijuana growers, importers, and retailers, the bill would actually divert tax revenue into 4 brand new government programs, including one to make it, or to create subsidies for businesses, actually. This bill creates new criminal penalties for failure to pay the taxes. So actually, this isn't really criminal justice reform. It's actually creating different type of penalties and criminalizations and would likely lead to jail for small-time dealers for tax evasion instead of for selling their product. Mr. Speaker, I don't support the underlying purposes of this bill, the legalization itself nationwide, but even if I did, I can't support the terribly flawed design in terms of taxation and the overall form of this bill.
Medical cannabis has been allowed in Hawaii for years, although licensed dispensaries have only recently become established in the state. On Hawaii Island, 2 companies operate a total of 6 licensed retail centers. According to Health Department numbers as of August, there were a total of 29,475 medical cannabis patients in Hawaii and 2,445 caregivers registered statewide.